God created, Linne organized is probably the best way to describe the fascinating and controversial person that Carl von Linné is. To get started with some quick facts, Linné is definitely most famous for naming and organizing more than 12,000 species, such as mammalia, the origin of the word mammal, and in a way he named himself by giving the human race the Latin name of Homo sapiens. Carl von Linné was a many-sided person. Even though he was deeply religious, he called apes the cousins of the human race, more than 100 years before Darwin. And as a verification of his importance, he can be found on the Swedish 100 krona bill.
Carl von Linné was born 1707 in a small city in the middle of Sweden. He lived with his parents and his four siblings, and he was the oldest of them. When he turned 20 years old, he started to study medicine in Lund. The following year, he continued his studies in Uppsala. After some years of studying, he started his travels to investigate new species. During this time, he wrote a lot of books, and many of them are known and in use even today. He died in Uppsala 1778 in the age of 71 years. He was buried in Uppsala Domkyrka. One of his most famous books is Species Plantarum. It was published 1753. It was the first book ever that used biological names, and it was a starting point of the naming of plants. Carl von Linné also turned the Celsius scale around. Before he did that, freeze point was at 100 degrees and the cooking point was at 0 degrees. So in fact we should call it the Linné scale.
During the middle of the 18th century, Linné was one of the scientists founding the Royal Swedish Institute for the Sciences, now famous for every year announcing the world-famous Nobel Prizes in physics and chemistry. And as I said earlier, Linné was a man with several sides, and in recent days there's been several discussions concerning his status as a kind of Swedish hero. Because Linné didn't just organize plants and animals. Human beings were also ranked and given certain characteristics. For instance, he placed blue-eyed Swedes above Finns, and these above the Sami people, the indigenous Swedish inhabitants, at a time living just in the northern parts of Sweden, Norway and Finland. Furthermore, he very distinctly separated the inhabitants of the various continents, which some historians believe was one of the causes of the justification for European countries to colonize Asia, Africa and America. Thus, Linné is a much more interesting man than you might think at first glance, and he's a superb reason for visiting the fascinating historical country of Sweden.